entrepreneurship, specifically technology entrepreneurship, can mean for us, right? And I've always said in a lot of my writings that we have a perception problem. We perceive that it is easier to be an athlete or an entertainer than to be an entrepreneur and own our own business. And we receive that for a couple of reasons. One is because when you look at the media, that's all we see, right? The second reason why we perceive that is because our youth today don't get any other examples. At least when I was growing up, I would at least see a black doctor or a black lawyer every now and then, and my mom would tell me, you need to look at him, that's who you need to be. That's not there now, right? Now, while that's happening over in our world, there's a whole nother world going on. And that world is white suburbia where there's 4 or 5 computers in the home, there's internet access, and there's a comfort about the internet, right? So then you'll read stories about 15-year-old kids who will create an iPhone app for fun and make 60 grand a year, but like that was cool, right? That's where the disconnect is right now, right? And that leads up to us coming into an environment where we read the stories about companies getting funded and things of that nature, and we believe that that's the holy grail of how we become successful. Well, the part we're missing is that if we had the right skills, we wouldn't need the funding. The reality is that a lot of those people and some of the things the guys that Incubate NYC had on their deck, when you talk about, you know, hackathons and things of that nature, right? The power of the internet opportunity is that you can walk into a room on Friday and walk out with a company on Monday. And you don't need anybody else but yourself to do it. You know, in my life, I've run businesses where I've never met the people who I was exchanging money with. And I have to believe that there's many of those cases that if they had met me, they probably wouldn't have done business with me. You know, Navarrow is a hard name to figure out. He could be Hispanic, he could be from Liberia, they don't know. But I got the business. And what people don't understand is that technology is probably the greatest equalizer in the world. It allows you to bypass race. It allows you to circumvent some of the limitations we have. If you're in marketing, you know this, right? You can have a fantastic idea. The person next to you can have a crappy idea, and they're picking it based on their assumption, based on how you look and how you act, right? The beauty of technology is I jump over that. Because if my product is hot and people are using it, you can't argue with that no matter what I look like. Those are the things we have to educate people about. We have to educate our youth about. You know, I mean, the fact that we have a dude here, and I did this when we did one of the screenings at Google, since part of the CNN documentary was at Google, and it was for the Black Googler Network. I had no idea that there was a Black Googler Network, right? So I'm in the room with 200 black people who work at Google. That's like Fantasy Island to me. Like, I was like, yo, there's 200 black people who work at Google, and now there's 201. My man's in the back. But think about it, right? You guys probably didn't know there was 200 black people working at Google. But that's part of the perception problem, right? Because if you knew there were 200 black people working at Google, then working at Google becomes a reality. If working at Google becomes a reality, then you think about wanting to get the skills to work at Google because you know other black people are already there, right? Those are the things we have to do. The other thing I used to always say was, if we took a busload of kids from Oakland, took them to Facebook and gave them a tour, showed them the private chefs, showed them the dudes riding around on skateboards, bringing their dogs to work, and then left, they would ask, well, how can I work here? And I said, well, you got to learn how to code, you got to learn how to be an engineer. We stopped at the Oakland Library, they'd be mobbing each other to get the last computer book because they would have a visual representation of what that opportunity meant. We don't have visual representations. I mean, let's be clear, just by the fact that you guys are sitting in this audience, you're anomalies, right? You understand that there is a market in technology. All of you probably have smartphones, right? You're users of that. And even if you might not be the place where you want to be from an entrepreneurial standpoint, you're a level up. There's a large portion of us in our demographic that don't have that knowledge, that don't have that level up. And the reason why I say it's partly our fault, because you guys have to question yourselves of how often have you gone and shared that knowledge with someone who doesn't have that knowledge. That's one. The second one is if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, there's a process, white, black, Indian, whoever. How much have you studied that process to be excellent? Everything that we've ever been successful in, we've been better than everybody else. The weird thing I see about the internet space is we seem to think we don't have to be better than everybody else in this space, and then we get mad when no one gives us money. Like, we have to recognize that, you know, classic example, you know, Clive mentioned Cold Year. Cold Year had 300,000 people sign up in 2 weeks. Like 4 people in this room put up their hand, right? And there may be people in this room that want to create technology businesses. And the analogy I give you is, if I start a hair salon, I bet I know how to do hair. Because y'all will come like one time. Right? Actually, one of y'all will come and the rest of y'all will be looking, nah, he messed that up. I'm not going in there. But for some reason, we get demystified in thinking that we don't need those skills to get into this space. Then we get mad when they don't turn out right. Right? And so what we have to do, I believe, is we got to flip that a little bit, right? It's great to hear that these guys are in Harlem doing an incubator. My hope is that a core piece of that is really educating people on the entrepreneurial process, right? So let's talk about a piece of that, right? Let's take that for example. Everybody wants to get funding. You don't know how many people come up to me and say, I got this great idea. If somebody would just give me some money to build it, it would be ready. We'd be millionaires, right? That's backwards. Here's why it's backwards. There's an issue when you raise money for a company, it's called valuation, right? That's how much you think your company's worth versus how much the people who are giving your company money think it's worth. And that's a battle. If you're walking in with an idea and a PowerPoint deck, your company's worth nothing. So if they give you money, they will own it, and you won't have a company, you will be an employee. So you need to push your company as far as you need to go to have that valuation battle. People think Mark Zuckerberg is the greatest CEO in the world. He's not. He's smart, because by the time he wanted to raise money, his company was valuable enough that he was able to maintain 30% ownership in the company. They couldn't fire him. He could run butt naked down the street yelling, hey, hey, hey. They couldn't fire him. It's a shameful story of entrepreneurship. And when you think about the core of entrepreneurship, it's about charting your own destiny and owning your own business. But people don't understand that the biggest fallacy in that is if you run out and get money, you won't own it anymore. There's companies out there, there's technology companies out there that when they go to get funding, it's because they want to grow and accelerate, not because they need to make this much rent. And the technology skills allow you to do that, right? The other thing I'll hear a lot is, if I have an idea, I need to find a technical co-founder, right? And that's really hard. That's hard in mainstream work, right? That's hard. Google stealing from Facebook, Facebook stealing from Google. That's even harder here. So the reality is, we've made a way out of no way our entire lives. Why should that be any different in technology? And the beauty is with technology, it's all there. I wrote a story one time on my blog and I said, you know what does it take to create an iPhone app? So I did a Google search. I found out that the course that's taught at Stanford is available for free on iTunes. Then I did another Google search, found 5 books that were in my local library for free. Then I said, well, let me go to Apple and see, once I build this thing, how much does it cost to put me in the App Store? It costs $99 to become an Apple developer. So you juxtapose that with starting a laundromat, restaurant, beauty salon, you name it, of brick and mortar businesses. There's no reason why people shouldn't be trying to learn these things. And so what if you don't learn them, but you understand the process? So I'm a big believer in, even if you don't end up being an engineer, again, going back to the hair analogy, you should know enough about the technology to be able to find smart partners. Because if you don't know the technology, how do you know if somebody you get is good or bad, or if they're worth the money they're giving? Again, if I'm not going to do hair, I'm going to hire 5 of the best hairdressers I know and make it happen. That's the mentality you need to have when it comes to technology entrepreneurship. You know, 2012, I've been saying, is the year of the black job. And what I mean by that is, I believe that by the end of 2012, we're going to have a group of people who are employable and a group of people who are unemployable. You know, if you look at the numbers, they change drastically in almost every demographic group except ours. When you look at programs becoming mainstream, Code Year, for example, those guys are from Code Academy. They partnered with Obama's administration, and now they're doing summer programs to teach more people how to code. So now the one thing we can't do, more people on the other side are going to know how to do by the end of the year, right? do the math. If we don't understand this environment and take advantage of it and get a deeper understanding of it, how to motivate other people, we're going to be out of the game. The game's not going to stop moving. We're just going to be out of the game. So you guys have to realize that there's an opportunity for you to, and here's the beauty.